Okay then, we're here with St. Guys. How are you today?
Pretty good. See, it's slam dunk. First day.
Yeah, because you formed in 2004 and released your first EP off Straight On Records. Were you surprised at how fast things got moving for you? Happy within a year?
Yeah, it kind of did. We all started touring immediately. We got outside, we got out of California.
Yeah.
And there was response from people outside of the state, and it was just good to kind of have a means to depart and see some new places.
Yeah, and we had a lot of friends too that were like just wanting to tour, so we would always just tour with friends. So I think that made it kind of get bigger than what it was.
Yeah, because you got quite a lot of record label interest, and you chose to go with Eulogy Records. How come you chose to go with that record label?
At the time, they were working with the Warriors a lot then, and I think that it was just kind of they were ready to work with the band immediately, whereas the other labels were just that's all it was interest. It wasn't like they didn't have any immediate plans. So Eulogy was the best choice, and in addition to that, they had a really good back catalog, and we'd all been listening to their records for a long time. So
because you released your debut album with them called Mutiny. Were you surprised at how well it did, or were you expecting it to do better because of all the touring you had done?
I mean, I didn't think we had any expectations.
Yeah.
I think it was more like, oh, the band has a label. We got to record a record and to release it in a proper label.
Yeah.
That was all it was, and then little by little doing like hardcore tour after hardcore tour, and then suddenly we started doing like our first pop punk ska tour, which was Less Than Jake.
Yeah.
And then it just started snowballing from there.
Yeah, because you featured on Fearless Records' Punk Goes compilation for the acoustic and the crunk one. Did you get to choose the songs you wanted to do?
We did get to choose the songs.
For the acoustic one? Yeah.
Yeah, acoustic one, yeah. The other one we had to run by.
Well, for the Punk Goes Crunk, I've been a friend. I used to work with Fearless when I was younger.
Yeah.
And they hit us up for the second time, and they're like, would you guys want to do a song? We're like, yeah, we wanted to do, I think, Tupac, California Love.
Yeah.
But another band had taken it. So Bob Becker's like, would you guys be interested in doing Little John?
Yeah.
And at first, we kind of didn't think about it. We're like, yeah, let's do it. And Little John was the crunk guy. So we're like, let's do it. Let's just have fun with it. And that's kind of where it came about.
Because how come you chose to do Echoes as your acoustic track and not the one?
I think it was like, for that record, I think it was the song that was going to translate the best into an acoustic song.
Yeah.
Like lyrically, and then even musically, like it just kind of made sense to do that. And it was kind of spur of the moment that we would throw drums and bass on it too. We were going to just do an acoustic song, but we were like, I wonder how that would sound, and tried it out, and kind of like the way it sounded in the mix of things.
Because it wasn't long later when you bought yourself out of Eulogy Records, which it was rumoured your manager paid for your contracts.
Rumors, but
a lot of rumors.
I mean, it was more like if we couldn't get off our label, our manager was going to help us out.
Yeah.
But like Eulogy at the time was the only label interested, and then when we wanted to get off Eulogy, there was a lot more interest from other labels, and Epitaph was the only one saying, I want you guys, let's make it happen.
No, I was just gonna say, it was actually it was a series of I guess you'd say negotiations that got us onto Epitaph, because it's more than just like, oh, we have the money to front it, because we didn't have like all the money to front that.
Yeah.
We'd even looked into like taking out like a loan if we could have. Any means to be able to put a record out with a label that was gonna promote it for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were a couple of things that lined up that allowed us to get off the label.
Because you said that you joined Epitaph. With their experience and their reputation, how has that supported your development as a band?
Great. I mean, I think the minute we signed to Epitaph, we knew what it was like to be in a label.
Yeah.
That worked just as hard as we did, or harder.
Yeah.
So they have staff of like over 20 people in the U.S. alone, and they have offices in 4 to 5 different continents.
Yeah.
And we could literally go to the offices and hang out with each and every one of them. Like, it's a very close family.
Right.
Yeah.
They all bring their dogs to work. It's really cool.
Because you released This Will Be the Death of Us from them, which was produced by Mike Green. What was it like working with him? Because obviously he's worked with Paramore and stuff like that.
You'd worked with him before.
With my old, I mean, our band has never really worked with a producer before that.
Yeah.
And at that time, like, our manager was like, yeah, you guys should work with this producer or that. And some of us were kind of not into it, but I had worked with Mike Green previously with my other bands, and I just brought it up to the band. I was like, dude, he's a great guy. He's done bands that we all listen to, like Over It, Rootfield, Paramore, The Matches, a bunch of other cool bands. And I think at that time we wanted someone that had more of the ear of like the pop punk scene, and we already had like the hardcore punk influence, you know. And just working with him was perfect. Like, he knew what we wanted to do, and he helped out musically
so much more.
With just pretty much develop the ideas that we had into like more solid, like grounded ideas, and
turned us into like musicians.
Yeah, and I mean, even vocally, they were comfortable, you know. Matt was comfortable, like all of us were comfortable playing our instruments. He would help us, like, all right, let's do this lead, let's play it here, let's do it there, and it just worked well. He never was like, this is what I want. It was like, what do we want to do? You know, and it just meshed well.
Because it got 65th on the Billboard 200.
It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. We were kind of like, whoa, what just happened?
I was about to ask that, was you like surprised at how well he done? Because obviously it's such a reputable magazine.
I mean, it was cool that like there were as many like pre-orders on the record as there were, and in the scans for the first week, like more than like quadrupled the sales from the first week of Mutiny. And with Mutiny, we made the Heat Seeker Billboard chart, and then they cover a lot of independent records. And then when we made the Billboard Top 100, and it was like, oh, Epitaph has a really good, like, they have a good outlet, good distribution, good promotion, and you've gotten the songs out there like they did. And we also have been working with them on publishing as well. So they were, you know, having an investment in the publishing. They put themselves out there a lot more to help us get into, like, the Madden game, the song out there.
They're just like you said, like they're just a label that wanted to like do everything they can to get the band out there, and we're not opposed to it, you know. Like when we made it on the Billboard, we're like, this is awesome, like.
And they don't do things cheesily. Like the thing with Eulogy was like all the ad campaigning they wanted to do for the first album was very cheesy. They wanted, you know, like, I don't know, they're just really silly gimmicky slogans, and we grabbed all of it because we maintained the creative control. But whereas with Epitaph, it's like every idea they bring up, like I don't think we've ever shot one down. In fact, I think we bring up more ideas to them, and then they take that from me.
Because on that album you worked with Hayley Williams. What was she like to work alongside?
Awesome.
Awesome. I mean, we get that question asked all the time. She's literally just a good friend of ours. She was hanging out at the studio while we were recording, and we kind of just like, hey, you want to sing a part? Yeah, okay. We sent her the track, and she did it, sent it back, and that was it. It was like just a friend helping out, you know?
Because you're back in the UK now for Slam Dunk, and you recently supported Yumi at 6. How was that experience for you to go out with that?
Great.
It was awesome. That's the biggest tour, I think, support tour we've done here, and maybe even actually one of the bigger tours we've done in general.
It was just, I mean, it was definitely different for us, but it was good. It was a good way to play to a different audience, you know, that we normally would never play to. So.
And like the crowds that they draw are like really like into like being at the show. You know, it's not just like, oh, we're just gonna go over the headliner and boo all the opening bands. Like we want to see like music. They want to see the whole show for like a few hours. They want to be entertained, and so when you can get that kind of energy from a crowd, it just makes you even more into what you're doing. And it's good to have. It was good to have that.
How are you finding Slam Dunk today?
It's
great.
Cool. It's like,
I mean, it's like doing Warped Tour in the States, but very short and like
a little bit more organized, but very quick.
It's very organized for being two Slam Dunks. You know, like Warped Tour, it's a little bit unorganized at first, but once everyone gets in the groove of things, then it just runs smooth. But with this, it's like last year I think was a little hectic.
It's pretty wild.
But this year it's just like bam, bam, like the days going by real quick. And there's a lot of good friends that we haven't seen in a while, and a lot of friends that we've like I lost for words, and this time next year that we've been trying with. So.
Hit the lights. We see those guys all the time overseas, like running festivals and stuff.
Because next month you're releasing your album, Burning Both Ends. What should fans expect?
It's a lot more. It's a
world domination.
World domination, definitely. We're actually gonna like solar domination, take over all the planets and some things. It's like sonically, it's a bit more like our first album. It sounds a little bit more alive. Everything we tried, we didn't. A lot of times when bands will go with a producer, they'll record the click tracks, which is common. Drummers will play the click tracks.
Yeah.
But what a lot of bands do also is they'll gridlock the recording. So everything is very electronic, even if the instruments are live in some way or form, like they're manipulated. And with this record, it was just there was a click track that we played all the songs through. We touched up parts of the music that needed to be touched up, but all in all, they're pretty much just straight through takes, like vocally, and then the drums and the bass. His drum takes, like the producer we worked with, primarily Brian McTurnan, basically told Mike, he's like, you have to play the song all the way through. You guys have to be able to play the song. So, but then you can go back still and you can tighten up the things that you want to make jump. But I think as a result of that, the CD has come out sounding a lot more like natural, and all the engineers we work with, from the production to
raw energy,
very raw. And the mixing engineer, mastering, the guy mastered the record. Dave Collins has mastered film scores for like E.T. and Jurassic Park and Indiana Jones, as well as like heavy rock records for Motley Crue and Soundgarden. Yeah. So he's got an ear all over the board.
Do you think it's going to be a more live sounding album, but portraying you better how you sound live? Or do you reckon
I think the way I always describe it is like it's a little bit like Mutiny, as far as like the rawness and everything, but the musicality, like this would be the death of us,
Yeah.
Still more mature and everything, but kind of like going back to kind of like very energetic songs,
Yeah.
And we got to take a good part of the CD to Mike Green at the end of it. So to have the kind of the ear of the last CD in the mix of bringing back the old more sound that we had before we got in with him, it was just kind of cool.
Yeah, they're all the questions we had to ask. But thank you for doing that one.
Thank you.